What is up, everybody? This is Michael Sage checking in here today, and it is a long time coming, guys, but here we have a state of the grow video. So let me explain. It's been a long time since I've chatted with you guys. Last time I posted a video was about 3 months ago, and basically I've been really busy. And let me rewind back a little bit. So you guys might have noticed the last 2 videos are a completely different kind of filming technique, a little, different vibe, but a lot more editing, definitely more succinct, a lot better planned. And a lot of you guys have gotten back to me saying that you guys love those videos, which I'm really, really happy about. But they do take a lot of time to make, and I miss just chatting with you guys. And that's not the only reason. It's not just like because it takes a lot of effort, a lot more effort to make the videos, but it's because I'm just like really busy. And it's not like the old days where all I had to focus on was just videos. I have to do a lot of other stuff. But I don't want you guys to get the idea that like I'm gone from YouTube or anything like that. In fact, I'm still just as active as I ever was with the mycophilia community. It's just that all the other stuff is taking a lot of time. And most of the videos that I post are on my website in the description because YouTube will basically take down my fruiting videos. But before we begin, I need to make a quick announcement for all current MycoSage website supporters that have joined prior to April 18th, 2025. Basically, here's the situation. My payment processor has stopped processing payments, so I had to switch to a new payment processor. The problem is that there's no way to actually migrate all current subscribers onto the new payment processor. So what's going to happen is if you're currently a member, you need to cancel your account and resubscribe. I'm sorry, this is the only way. And if you don't do that, then basically what's going to happen is your account's automatically going to get canceled 1 week after your scheduled payment period. All right, guys, back to the video. But I had this rare opportunity where I can show you guys what I'm doing, because right now I don't have anything going on, at least fruiting wise, because I've been like super busy. It's just been a crap show. I wish I could talk to you guys about it, but I can't for various reasons. But believe me, it's been kind of a crap show lately. So because it's such a crap show though, I thought, hey, you know what? I want to like just get back to cultivating for the joy of cultivating and just like growing mushrooms and testing things out. So that's sort of the kick that I've been on right now. And over here, I'm actually reviving an old project. So if you guys saw, I posted a community post about what could be in my Instant Pot. And well, this is what it is. It's the Poo-Cake TEK. For those of you guys who've been here for some time, may be familiar with the Poo-Cake TEK that I was working on all the way back in like 2022. And even from my old channel, the original video for the Poo-Cake TEK was released there. And what it basically is a way where you can easily fruit poo lovers. In this case, I'm going to be putting in poo lover, TTBVI, and Okies without a tent or anything like that, just putting on a Ziploc bag. Now that was 3 years ago when I came up with that idea, and about 2.5 years ago, somebody actually did already release it, so good on them. But regardless, I still want to do it. I still want to do it because I still personally have not done it. So I want to do that, but there is one big difference, and that is with the original Poo-Cake TEK, what I was doing was creating a brown rice flour mix that incorporated manure, which is based on a recipe by a guy called Mac Murden from Mycotopia. And he had this method in 2005, but the difference with the Poo-Cake TEK that I was doing was that I was going to put a Ziploc bag over it rather than putting it inside a shotgun fruiting chamber or inside some kind of automated system that's commonly used for growing enoki poo lovers. So with these guys, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a mix, and I'm going to show you guys later what I'm going to be fruiting it in because it's going to be really cool. A mix of an automated setup. So I'm going to be using a JCM chamber made by JCM on the Esmery, and that is a really, really cool fruiting system that is completely self-contained and monotub size. So for those of you guys living in apartments or wanting to keep your footprint a little bit smaller, this is a great way to do it. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about how the setup is. I have a more in-depth video on my website. And of course, we have to have the food for the mushrooms to grow. And we have a lot of grains here, brown rice. Now, if you notice, it's sort of like Goldilocks. This one has the most, this one has sort of less, and then this one has less. The reason is because I was running out of brown rice, and with these guys, what I'm going to plan to do is I'm going to use these guys for poo lovers, because I got 2 jars with this amount. They're perfect for poo lovers. In fact, you could even probably go half and then just do manure and core, and those guys will be happy. And a lot of people are under this misassumption that the more grains that you have, the more food that you feed your mushrooms, then the more mushrooms you're going to get. And, it's not a completely infallible logic. It makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, water is extremely important. And 2, mushrooms don't need much nutrients to grow. They're very, very efficient, especially if you've got good genetics. And 3, it's going to actually increase your chances of contamination the more grains that you have, because you have to remember that the more grains that you have, the more nutrition that you have, the more other things will want to take it, and the more appealing it is for them to take it, and the more chance you basically increase the vector of contamination a lot if you increase it. And it can also make your mycelium do weird things, and it could cause increased aborts in your grows. It could cause smaller mushrooms to pop out and so forth. So you really want a good balance of spawn and substrate. I always recommend 1 to 2 up to 1 to 4 maximum for core lovers. That's a great spot, I find, and it's also corroborated by a lot of tests. Now back to the poo cakes, I forgot to mention. So with these guys, there is no grain spawn in here. This is just pure compost manure. And this time it's not even really cow manure. At least I don't know if it's cow manure, because let me explain. So this is actually mushroom compost. Now, what is mushroom compost? It's basically the spent substrates from mushroom farms that have been composted, and they make a great growing medium for your garden. And the reason that I have this around is because I'm actually starting gardening a little bit. So it's that season, right? So that's why I bought some. Now, who knows what these mushrooms came from? It could come from multiple mushrooms. I don't know if it's manure based or anything, but regardless, there should be plenty of nitrogen, and I'm sure that the poo lovers will enjoy this. So yeah, this is just pure mushroom compost, so no grain at all. I'm going to be making a syringe later on, spore syringe, and I'm going to be injecting it with the spores that I made of some Enoki TTBVIs, and we're going to see how it goes. So I'm really excited on that. So that's that, and now let's focus on what I have here, the sole shoebox that's actually going. And this, I actually spawned it yesterday. This is a Frilly cap mutation of black cap ochras. Formerly, we used to think that it was called black cap gnats, but it's actually black cap ochras. So that's another development that's sort of come to light since I last made a video. So this is a mutation that I found. It's basically like really, really cool, frilly kind of flower looking fungi out of this whole tub that I had of black cap gnats, ochras. And I thought it was really cool. So I thought that if maybe we can recreate it and stabilize it. So here it is. I'm just gonna show you guys how they're going. Looking pretty good considering it was yesterday. Now you guys might notice that I don't have a top layer on here, and the reason for that is because I'm going to be adding a real casing layer on here later on. And with the real casing layer, they're going to cover it, and I don't want it to be covered with a pseudo casing because it's just like more for the mycelium to colonize, and it's just basically unnecessary. Now a lot of people think that this is going to cause contamination, but it's not. The mycelium, as long as your mycelium is healthy, it's not going to cause a contamination. Let's repeat that. As long as your mycelium is healthy, as long as your spawn is healthy, in other words, if up to this point you did everything correctly, your grains were made at the right moisture level, they were sterilized long enough, and your inoculant that you used is clean enough, okay, then when you spawn it to a non-nutritive medium like core especially, but even with manure, for example, or some nutritious substrates, as long as it's properly prepared. For example, with manure, you'd want to pasteurize it, then they're going to be fine. These guys are really, really strong. And as I've always been saying for years and years, they grow on, okay? So they're going to be fine. And you could already basically see yourself, they're recovering beautifully. Now, if they don't recover, then that is basically telling you that your stuff isn't clean. Your stuff isn't healthy. All right, see how dry these jars are? And these are pretty recently made, so they're not even like fully, completely dry to their full extent. This is how I like it. It's going to be fully colonized in 2 weeks as long as I use good quality spawn. So I'm going to leave this here for maybe two more days, and I'm sure it's going to be ready to have a real casing on, so I'm going to use a Jiffy Mix casing layer on there. Now, the next thing that I want to show you guys is some really cool genetics that have been sent over from South Africa mostly. So over here we've got, now remember I just said that what we used to think was Natties was actually something else, a completely unknown species that we've come to call as Ochras. But over here, we actually have real Natties, but this is not the exact strain that's going around. The real gnats have been released from various sources, but this is actually from a completely different lineage. So this is actually straight from the head of South Africa's Mycological Society. A friend sent these over, so I'm going to be checking it out and seeing how they go, because apparently people have been having a lot of trouble fruiting them, and that's nothing new, you know, especially because we're talking about wild genetics. That's completely new. So I'm really excited to do some experiments and see how these guys go. Now, I did find a little bit of contamination. There was a little bit of yeast going on somewhere, maybe around here, but the mycelium's like pretty much completely covered it. Oh yeah, right there. I mean, it's really hard to tell because literally the mycelium's covered it, but there's a spot of yeast. So I'm gonna have to take some transfers. So I made some agar yesterday, and we're gonna go ahead doing that. Now over here we have, this is from the same friend. This is what he did. So he found a squat mutation of Ochras. So we're gonna be growing these out as well. So it's pretty cool. Because you know, with Ochras, right, they're really similar to core lovers, but unlike, say, envious of the phallus, or albino envious of the phallus, where there's all sorts of weird mutations going on. With Ochras, still relatively new compared to core lovers especially, right? So we could expect a lot of cool mutations to come out, and there's just not a lot out there. So hopefully we can get some cool ones going. And this is also from another friend. These are core lovers, and you might notice there's a little bit of a opening here. Speaking of that, remember about 2 years ago now, back in February 2023, I released a video about embedded contamination, and at that time nobody was talking about embedded contams. It was still kind of an underground topic, at least in the mainstream. You know, if you talk about contams, people assume like, oh yeah, you just have to clean it away. This idea that there's the mycelium itself can be having a bacteria on its back, hitching it on from plate to plate, was kind of not really talked about. And in the sciences, it's not like anything new, but at least in the mainstream, it wasn't really talked about. And nowadays, you know, it's talked about a lot more. So since I made that video, there's been some cool techniques that's been going around about how to clean up embedded contamination. And one of them is trenching. So that's what I'm doing here. So what you do is you take away a chunk of agar on the side and you take it out. And then what happens is that there's minimal nutrition in the middle. Now, having said that, it's not a perfect method because there still could be some nutrition in there, like in terms of water droplets and things. And that could be enough for the bacteria to hitch on, but usually it's fine. So the idea is that there's no nutrition, right? Or little nutrition, so the bacteria can't survive, but the mycelium can. So the mycelium pushes through to the other side, and boom, we got landfall. And there we go. So you can see sort of the mycelial strands crossing the bridge over there. They're crossing the Bering Strait to the promised land. You're gonna find a couple more plates with that. And over here, we also have some wild Ochras. So this is also from South Africa, and look at how wild that looks. Just all of the different sectors and strains fruiting, you know, just wanting to get their chance. Very, very vigorous. Looks very, very healthy. So that's a wild Ochras. And let's move on. I just wanted to show you guys this plate. So this is Purple Mystic, a strain many of you guys may be familiar with. And if you take a look here, it's a bit old. It's from January. But I wanted to show you guys this because this is one of the most plate pinny plates that I've ever had. So I can't wait to fruit these guys. These guys seem super aggressive. Hopefully we got a little canopy going on. I actually took one of the pins, the first pin, and I put it to another plate so that I can basically already start off with a decent fruiting culture, which I have somewhere here, right over here. And you can't even really see the pin. It's right there. Looking really good. That's just a bit of charcoal off of my scalpel. Again, we have another case of trenching. This is a pretty big trench. This is kind of an old plate. I really should have spawned this a couple of months ago, but you can see some age spots coming in. Now, when it comes to trenching different species, it really depends on the mycelium. Now, with core lovers and Ochras, it's real simple because of the fact that their mycelium is a lot more rigorous. But when we're talking about, for example, Mexican grass lovers here, their mycelium is very, very kind of docile and very slow moving. It's like, it's tomentose, but it's like even more tomentose than tomentose, if that makes sense. Just like the way they look is very oily, and the way they grow, it almost looks like they have embedded contamination, just like neutrally. You know, their basic state is like, looks like they have embedded contams. But sure enough, it still went through. And to talk about my point, you can't even see the mycelial strands like really coming out. And this is old, so you could see some, but like, look at that, guys. You could barely see it compared to other species. But sure enough, it does work. Over here, we got Apollensis F4. The thing about Apollensis F4 is that when I made the original cross plates, there are always tons of plate pins coming out, which I don't see with either parents, the Mexican or Florida grass lovers. But with the Apollensis, usually they used to come out like crazy, but for F4 they don't. And the interesting thing is, the F3, the parent of this, basically did not produce any stones, like literally, like no sclerotia, which is pretty much unheard of for honestly like Mexican and Florida grass lovers. Like after a couple of months, even if they're not really good sclerotia fruiters, you still expect some sclerotia. And for those of you who don't know what I mean, basically like truffles. I've got like a huge sclerotia playlist on my channel. I went really heavy into it 2 years ago. So if you guys want to grow some like stones at home, aka truffles, then check out the sclerotia playlist because I got all sorts of resources there. And over here we got some black Cap Ochra Light, looking really, really, really vigorous. I don't know why they're called light. This is from a friend, so he gave me the original black Cap Ochras, and but I don't know like what makes this light. Like, does it produce less spores? Because I found that the black Cap Ochras themselves don't produce any spores. I mean, like, don't produce much spores. Especially the first flush, I got like literally 0 spores, but later on I got a lot. So why is it light? Is it like lighter in color? Is it like a lighter dark color? You know, it kind of seems contradictory because the whole point is for it to be black caps. So I don't know what they mean by light, but I'm curious to see what it is, and I'm going to grow it out. And look at how absolutely vigorous this mycelium is. It's just completely running up the wall there. Really gorgeous. Yeah, Ochras are known for really, really vigorous mycelium. So talking about Mexican grass lover mycelium, this is what I'm talking about. So over here we got some Jaliscos, and they're actually crossing at a pretty good pace, honestly. I actually reduced the size of the trench because these guys are, as I said, kind of really tomentos. But you can see they're still coming through, so making really good pace. For whatever reason, every time I spawn these guys, they always contaminate, but they were complete spore plates. So I'm gonna hopefully get some good culture going on over here. All right, so now we're done with the agar. So now let's move on to the JCM chamber where I'm gonna be fruiting most of these babies. So let's get to it. All right, so here we are at the JCM chamber, and if you notice, there's nothing really going on here. There's no water, it's not moving, you don't hear anything. And that's because it's not, because I don't have anything going on right now, at least fruiting wise. So the last thing I did in here was try to fruit out some Mexican grass lover A strain, which is a primarily sclerotia producer. And boy, those guys produce so much sclerotia, huge sclerotia, but after months of fruiting, 0 fruits. It would always create little primordia, and it seemed like it's gonna become fruits, but then they'd like conglomerate into a mass. They're like, you know what, let's just become sclerotia instead. And they just became stones, so I was just full of stones. So that's what happened. And it was on there for so long that the water started to like get murky and nasty, so I had to do a deep clean, but that's beside the point. I just want to show you guys like the quick steps of a JCM chamber, how it works. So as you guys can see, this is just basically like a little monotub. The difference is we've got holes on the top, we've got little brackets on the side to lift it up for air exchange. And the basic principle of how it works is that we've got a aquarium heater, and here we've got water stones, also intended for aquarium use. And what we do is we fill it up with a little bit of water, and we got a little cake rack here, and then over here we put our trays. And so there's no fan involved, and you can set the temperature of this. So basically you could set the temperature of the whole enclosure, which is great. Now you can't really cool down the enclosure, which is kind of a downside, but obviously it's a lot easier to warm something up than it is to cool something down. It takes a lot more energy. But lucky for us, most exotics that we grow indoors like warm weather. So the basic principle of how this works is, so you put water in here, and then the water heater will heat up all the water, and that water is going to disperse throughout this whole little environment in here. And then what does this do? What do the air stones do? Well, it's going to push a lot of air out. So it pushes a lot of air out, and what that does is it accomplishes 2 things. The first thing it does is that it increases humidity, because every time those bubbles come out, then it bursts and a little bit aerosolizes. And so it just keeps producing the humidity for your mushrooms. So it's going to keep it at a perfect rate. I also put a bunch of little holes on the side. And also it increases air exchange, because every time it evaporates, that's some oxygen coming in, right? So that's oxygen moving. So the hot air is going to rise. It's going to rise out through the top. And then to make up for that displacement, new air is going to come inside here. So you're going to get more air. But it's all going to be controlled inside here, the temperature and the humidity level. So as long as you set everything up, then this is a set and forget tech pretty much. You might have to mist it here and there, or you might have to drain it, but once you tune everything in, then it's pretty much set and forget. So this is a great tech. The only downside obviously is the space. You can't fit as much as in a tent, but it works just as well, and it's very space effective. You can do a lot of things inside here, especially if you're strapped for space. So guys, that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you guys want to do mentorship, or you guys are interested in my microscopy products, hit me up on my email in the description, and check out again my website. Thank you for watching, guys. Much love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.